Hello my friend, today I'm going to show you how I draw on a very bright paper. I use Canson Colorline fuchsia hue. Whenever I use it, it gives me fantastic results. Test your colors on a separate piece of paper to understand what colors are going to react to this paper and what colors are not gonna look very vivid. When doing this demonstration, I was actually testing out these colored pencils. You don't have to buy them. You can easily replace them with your brand. These are not the softest ones. And I have a basic color chart you can refer yourself to. I usually use a sketch paper to sketch out the face, and then I transfer it onto my drawing paper. I do this because I want my paper to be very nice and clean. It cannot stand graphite lines. Whenever you shade with light pencils, you make the lines much stronger, and it just contaminates the color. I always start drawing the same way. I mark the deepest shadows first, and then I mark the highlights. You know, the choice of my colored pencils for this depends on the image. Here I used black to mark the darkest areas, and I used Prismacolor white to mark the highlights. And black can be replaced with a very dark brown as well. So I have the two poles, the lightest lights and the darkest darks. Over the course of this video demonstration, I'm just gonna bridge the gap between these two extreme values. But before I do that, I always work on the eyes first because they are the focal point. And that's the reason why I fill them in first. Please refer to my previous videos how to draw the eyes to understand where to place shadows and the highlights in the eyes. I use a very sharp colored pencils because they allow for precision necessary to make very nice thin lines, and also I rotate my drawing often to make the strokes in the right direction. Now I begin shading in large areas in the face, and I use this yellow ochre color to shade around the highlights. The picture has a lot of yellow in the skin tones, and that's the reason why I'm using it. I would change pencil direction and I would shade that way. If I look at this space, again, this is round, so it curves. While I have this basic core shadow established, and I have this basic reflected light, which is not as bright as this space. I need to make this more subtle, and to create those transitions I can overlap the colors, and I can also shade over the colors, and I can continue shading, changing pencil direction to capture that volume. The softness of colored pencil. If you draw on textured surface, harder pencils work a little bit better, but at the same time I find that the softer the pencils and the more pigmented they are, the better the result that you are getting. I find it very hard to shade with harder pencils because paper fills in a lot sooner. When I get to this space and I want to apply more color, I can't because it's just so filled in. And that's the thing, working with harder colored pencils. But once it's dry, I can apply my final layer and do the texture and adjust shapes and values a little bit more if I need to. When I step back and look at it from the distance, I can see that I need to shade over this space a little bit more to make it more brownish and to unify it more so it recedes in space. I also need to work on a few highlights that I see in the hair, probably make a few flyaways, small hair strands to make it more real. I would also add a few hairs in the eyebrows. I'm thinking of adding just a little bit of light in this area. The color of the background always affects the edges and the overall feel for the drawing. When I shade the background, I shade over the edge, not to create lines around the hair that I don't want to have. It needs to be seamless. And I want this to have a sketchy feel. That's why I'm not gonna fill it in completely. Rather, I would just make it more even, going like so.